Welcome to Story Unfolded, everyone. We'd like to introduce you to Aaron, Keisha, and Michelle, a three-part series about a mother and her two children who walked the road of addiction, a story about restoration and reconciliation. So join us now for part one of Aaron's Story Unfolded.
My story begins in my childhood. I grew up with a very, what I feel, privileged family. I mean, I had tons of love. I had parents that took very good care of me. You know, even though at an early age they separated and divorced, that I never considered that to be any sort of traumatic event. My life was very good. I was raised in church. Gosh, I was probably 9, 10 years old. I was baptized. I believed in God. You know, I knew about Jesus, and I knew how Jesus had given his life for our sins. And then I got to high school. You know, high school is kind of when my problems began. And what I was being taught in school about science and evolution over religion. Then you also began to have the experimenting with drugs and alcohol. You know, that's when I completely turned my back on God. And everything that I had been taught in school was so contradictory to what the Bible had always taught me growing up, that I thought the Bible was a fairy tale. And I thought that I had really achieved a higher level of intelligence as I was able to see past the facade of faith and religion. You know, I kind of felt like maybe if I removed God from my life and removed the sin from my life, then that kind of cleared my conscience. And I think that played a big part in me being able to deny God. If there's no moral, set of standards, then what I'm doing is okay. And so I kind of justified everything I did by that. My drug use continued for a long time. You know, for the next 17 years, it was a pretty steady part of my life. It was always there. I wasn't the only one in my family that was affected by drugs. My little sister, and she was 3 years younger than me, so she started at an even younger age than I did. And for the longest time, without my mom even knowing what was going on, me and my friends and her friends, we're all in the house. We weren't using drugs together, but they were in their room doing drugs, and I was in the living room doing drugs, and my mom had no idea. I kind of remember the first time my mom used drugs. One of her friends gave her an energy pill, and what that energy pill actually turned out to be was a capsule full of meth. And so that kind of started, the whole family on it. I mean, we all took kind of separate paths from that point. About that time, I had been put in jail for drugs once again. My mom, she had moved off with a guy, and I know they used drugs, and I don't know what my sister was doing at the time. She was still using drugs. But that's when as a family we kind of began to split apart. We definitely were all on our own personal mission to get high. And that's how things stayed for a long time. I almost lost my mom to domestic violence, and it was because of drugs. And you would think that something like that might trigger something inside all of us to say, hey, let's, we need to quit this. This is gonna kill one of us. I'd been a drug addict for 17 years. I was living in Amarillo. I was still using, and had gone through two rounds of treatment, still daily drug use. That's what my life was. And at that point, my mom, she had gotten sober, and God had completely changed her life. And I knew something had to have been at work in my mom. I mean, she went from a you know, a drug addict with nothing to this thriving, this joyful, this incredibly godly woman, you know, and in you know, in the process of a year, I saw amazing things happen in her life. And you know, my little sister, I never expected her to get sober and to get clean, and for God to be able to do that for her. There were little things that I was observing, saying, you know, something is at work in their lives. Things got so bad for me that I gave everything up over in Amarillo, and I said, you know, I'm going to come back to Pampa and I'm just going to get clean. The week that I came back to Pampa, there was a crusade going on at the high school football stadium. All the churches in the area had kind of come together and put this crusade on. And I went just because my mom and my sister were going, and you know, there was an incredible speaker there. His testimony was so powerful, and he finished up his speaking and he gave an invitation. And he said, people, you know, please come down front. We want to pray for you. We want to lead you through, you know, into salvation. And I stood there and at that moment, it's like every other person in that stadium disappeared for me. It was me and God alone in that stadium. There was nothing that I could do to hold myself back from going down front. Like I knew at that moment that God was real. And so I went down, you know, I went down front with the huge group of people, and you know, they prayed over us. And when I prayed for the Lord to you know, to wash me clean and to forgive me and to save me, you know, there was, it's like I'd never meant anything more in my life. I wanted something so much better for my life than what I had been given myself, and that was my opportunity. And I said, Lord, I trust you. I believe in you. Please take this addiction from me. And from that moment forward, there's never been the slightest, you know, the slightest struggle or desire or craving or anything like that you know, that I've had to deal with. It's like my faith in God wasn't dependent on him doing that for me, but I believe that God was like, I'm gonna show you what I can do for you, and he did, and it's been amazing. And you know, he's done it in my mom's life and my sister's life, and he said, I'm gonna free you three. I'm gonna set you free from, you know, the chains of these addictions, and this family is gonna be brought back together. And it was like from that moment forward, God started putting people in my life that have just played such a huge part in where I'm at today. You know, the guy that I met, his name was Jack, and Jack led me through you know, my prayer for salvation right there. He showed me what life as a believer was supposed to be about. Jack's a big part of my life, and knowing Jack led to another man in my life that was an important part of my life for the next 3 years after that. Mike was a pretty new believer too. You know, he was just the perfect person, you know, for me to spend the next 3 years of my life with. We prayed for each other, and we read daily devotionals together every morning before we started work. We'd read a devotion and we'd pray. I only know that God placed him in my life and placed me with him for that specific purpose. And one thing just leads to another, because he told me that he had a girl that he wanted me to meet, and then I looked her up on Facebook and I said, I've never seen this girl before, but she's beautiful. She's beautiful. And so we messaged back and forth a little bit on Facebook, and one day I just decided that I would I'd come up and see her and meet her in person. I brought her a cup of coffee, and you know, we just talked for a while, and then there was something instant. You know, we started dating, and you know, in November of last year, I proposed to her, and you know, we got married in April of this year. I'm blessed with the privilege to be able to be Kaylee and Carly's dad, and Lauren's husband. They deserve far better than me, for sure. But I'm given the privilege of being to, you know, be there and watch them grow up, and for Lauren to get to be you know, her husband. I mean, she's an incredible mother. She's an incredible wife. I mean, she's absolutely amazing, and I've got faith that God will, you know, God will take care of us, and you know, no matter what happens, God's still who He says He is. God still loves His children. God still, you know, provides and will take care of us. You know, for God to you know, to show His glory, you know, to bring us all together, to set us all free from addiction. You know, it's amazing. The past 3 years of my life have been the best 3 years of my life. I never would have imagined the you know, the things that are happening now. I never would have thought that they would have taken place. I mean, you know, just spending Christmas together with my mom and my stepmom and my dad and my nephew and my sister and me all together is I mean, it's just, it's amazing. It's incredible. And you know, there was a lot of years when my dad, Rex, and Jolinda, my stepmom, they didn't understand the lifestyle was that I was leading. They understood that we were drug addicts. For me and my sister to be gone and to cut them out of our lives, you know, for so long, you know, they could have very easily have washed their hands with us and said, you know, you have absolutely crossed the line, and I wish you the best. I hope things, you know, get better for you, but don't ever come back. They have extended forgiveness to us. That's truly, that's the love of Christ. That's what, you know, that's, you know, our faith is based on forgiveness, and, you know, and our ability to not only extend that forgiveness, but to receive that forgiveness as well. The way God has taken, you know, my life and my story, and my sister, and her life and her story, and my mom and her life and her story, and you know, he's brought those things all together, you know, in the past 3 years, you know, God has done such an amazing restoration of our family that I never could even have imagined. Yeah, I'm Aaron, and that's my story unfolded.